One thing I did want to get your take on a little bit more was the remarks by Mojtaba. So this, the new supreme leader. Just for context, everyone, he did lose obviously his father, the prior supreme leader, but he also lost his mother and wife.
Hmm.
So this is not exactly someone who's going to be very cheery and willing to negotiate. And he has said that we will, well, he used the word lever of blocking the strait should still be used as a way to put that asymmetrical pressure on the United States, disrupt the global economy.
Yeah.
How much do you think there is to that? Is this one of the best options the Islamic Republic has, or do they have other things that could be more useful?
Yeah, it's hard to say how much truth there is to that. I think regardless of the truth, he has to say that, and that has to factor into our calculus here. Like, what else is he going to say? I think it's probably one of the major flaws of the Trump admin strategy in Iran to not consider how important that radical religious element is. I'm a religious person. I know that if you were to take out my religious leaders, that's not going to make me stop being religious overnight. It's going to make me even more radical. And of course, in Iran, the most radical people who, are part of the IRGC, that number is close to the hundreds of thousands, but there's obviously millions, if not tens of millions of people who are radical or potentially radical, who this war is going to prove to them everything that their government has been telling them for decades, at least from their perspective. Whether or not it's true, that's going to be their perspective. They've always been told that the United States is just waiting to take them out, that they're a huge threat. And now, like, from their perspective, obviously that's true. And so how do you actually end the war in Iran in a good way, with all of this going on? It depends on the objectives. If it's just to take out the leadership and let Iran exist in a state of chaos and kind of destroy themselves, and maybe that is the Trump admin's objective, I'm not saying I agree with it, then maybe that's achievable. On the other hand, if your goal is actually to make Iran a better place for the people, like we tried to do in Iraq and Afghanistan, obviously we know that that didn't work with large based ground invasions. It's certainly not going to work with just airstrikes. So, to the extent that Iran wants to and has the capability to block the Strait of Hormuz, I think that they're going to have the motivation to continue doing that as long as they have the capability to do it. So, the question for me isn't what are they saying? That's not a surprise to me. It's what capabilities do they actually have in reality, and what counters actually exist to those capabilities. And I'm not personally convinced that they have the capabilities to keep the strait closed over the long term, maybe from the short to medium term. But again, I look at the reserves that the global oil economy has. I look at the other oil production that could come online. And when I think about all those things in combination and how those could help abate the crisis in Hormuz, I don't think that Iran has the capability to keep the strait closed long enough to create a serious enough problem for the global economy.